Well, I'd like to start off by asking if Mr. Roberts can tell me his full name, please.
Can you state your full name?
Yeah.
State
George Garland Roberts.
And when and where were you born, sir?
where and when were you born?
I was born March the 1st, 1921 in Wigan, England.
That's Wigan,
Yeah.
Luis.
Okay. So, how old are you now, sir?
How old are you now, Dad? How old are you now?
How old? I wish I knew.
104, right?
104.
Wow, it's incredible.
That's incredible.
Could you tell me about growing up during the 1920s and 1930s, please?
Tell him about growing up in England and then when you came to America.
Well, when I came to England, when I came from England, I was taught.
3 years old.
Yeah, I was just 3 or 4, I can't remember. 3 years old. And I was the sixth of 9 children.
Can you hear that, Luis?
Yes. Wow.
Sixth of 9 children.
And why did your family move over to the United States?
Why did your family move over?
I think it was for a better living. My dad's brothers lived in the United States and they immigrated from England before we did. And they wrote back and said the living in the United States was much better and much higher than what it was in England. And so they saved their pennies and brought the family over.
His father, Luis, was a coal miner.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
my dad was a coal miner.
And that was very, very hard work. He thought he'd have a better future in the United States.
Yeah, his brother, two brothers came over before he did and wrote and said it was much better living and encouraged my dad and mother to consider it and so they came over and brought the clan with them.
Did your father serve in the First World War?
Did your dad serve in World War One?
Yes, he fought for the British. He was in the British infantry,
Oh, wow.
and
He was a POW.
he is a prisoner of war of the Germans. In in he was interred and imprisoned in some place in France. I don't know where it was.
Did he talk about his service much?
No, he never mentioned his service. He was an infantryman, and he had 2 or 3 other brothers who were also in the service at the same time. And my dad was a prisoner of war for the Germans. I don't know how long. He never talked about it.
Hmm.
But he never conveyed much about his service time to any of us. My mother's brother was POW and later was killed in World War One.
Yes. Could you tell me how the Great Depression impacted your family and community?
How did the Depression affect your family?
Well, it was very hard on the family. Uh, at the time, uh, yes, that was a long time ago. But I remember the Depression in the 40s. Well, it was in the 40s, was it?
1939, maybe 1929, maybe,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
And
29 it started, I think.
we were one poor family. I know we lived for a while. We were on what to call relief, government subsidy, and it was a tough thing. Uh, I know we got our bread. We had to go pick up our bread every second or third day at a distribution center. At that time, we lived in Western Pennsylvania, and well, I don't I can't remember many of the details, but I do know that we were one of the poorer families, and my dad worked in the steel mills in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and his brothers came over. He had another brother was a superintendent in the coal mines. Another brother was a brakeman on the Pennsylvania Railroad.
Do you remember going to school at that time?
Do you remember where you went to school?
Yeah, I went to school in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and the school was called BHEAM uh, grade school. And I started at the time I was in the first grade, and it was kind of a privilege to go to a public school. They called it a public school because they had a lot of church-related schools there at the time. The Catholic Church was not in competition, but it was one of the bigger agencies at the time that I would say maybe 25 to 30% of the enrollment of school age kids was in what they called parochial schools, and they were Catholic. And then they had a few places where they had private schools for people who had a little bit more money, and they sent their children to that. And well, it was about like it was today, regular scheduled classes and recess and good teachers. I remembered the public school teachers that I had that were excellent.
What was the first job you had, Dad?
The first real job I had was with Overdorf Brothers Hardware, and I had needed a driver's license to make deliveries in the hardware truck and part-time work in the store. So I went to the police department. State Highway Patrol in Pennsylvania conducts training and licensing of all the drivers in that state. So I rushed down, got my permit, and I think about 4 days later, I went to take the test, and the one part of the test was you had to turn around in the street and not hit the curb, which was pretty hard to do because you had to go forward and back up and then go forward and back up until you get your car reversed in your direction. And if you hit the curb, they don't pass you. And I just barely grazed the curb, and this policeman who was a state patrolman who was very nice told me, he said, you need to practice a little more. I said, sir, I said, the only reason I'm here is if I have a license today, I can get a job. And I said, and I said, I really needed it. I says, my mama doesn't have a lot of money, but she has a lot of kids. But anyway, he did, and he let me back up the next time, and I passed the job. So the next day, I was a truck driver, a panel truck for a local hardware store, and then I worked in the store also. And this was a job that paid me $12.50 a week. It's 6 days a week. It was an Overdorf Brothers hardware store. And I really enjoyed it. Learned a trade and met a lot of good people. And that's probably what I would have to consider my coming out, because I look forward to going to work. I think my dad let me keep the $2.50, and $10 went to mother to buy food, groceries, and so forth.
And how old were you then?
How old were you then?
Well, I would have been 17.
Okay. So my
And the reason I remember it was 17 was the age for the application in the hardware store was 18. And they told me I was too young. And then I went down on bended knee and said, "Sir, you don't know how badly I need this position." And they hired me.
did you graduate high school? And if so, what year?
Yes, I graduated in 1938
Okay.
from Johnstown High School. I had mediocre grades, but I enjoyed school.
What did you want to work in after high school? What job did you want to do?
Well, I worked at this hardware store and driving a truck, and that had paid $12.50 a week for 6 days a week.
How long did you do that, Dad?
Well, I did that for almost 2 years, and then I got a job in Bethlehem Steel Company, which paid considerably more. And I was what they call a day laborer. But after I worked for a while, then I was promoted into the accounting department and worked there for, well, almost to the war, till the war started.
Do you remember where you were when you heard about the Pearl Harbor attack?
Yes, I remember this was when I was still in the hardware business, and the people said Pearl Harbor. I says, "Where's that at?" No, nobody. We never heard of Pearl Harbor, but from then on we did, and I knew that I was going to be drafted. At the time, I think I was 18. I just don't. It was a long time ago to remember, but I was drafted in at that time, and I remember going to the induction center and riding on the train, which from Johnstown to a place called New Cumberland, which was nothing more than a giant induction center for all Army uh, and Air Force and Navy uh, recruits.
Did you get to choose which branch you went into?
Did you get to choose which branch of the military you went to?
Oh no, no, no. They just stuck me in. I didn't know I was in the Air Force at the time, and we never saw an airplane.
That's all
But
right. That's good. That's a good answer.
And did you have any other siblings in the military at the time?
Were any of your brothers already in the service at that time?
Oh, let's see. I don't think so. I think I was the first one to go.
Hmm.
And then Hayden went in and Wesley went in. And I was drafted. I had no choice as far as going in. When you got to be 18 years old, you were subject to the draft, and you went to a recruiting center and took the physical examination, and if you were in fairly good health, you went in.
Okay.
And each area of the state had draft boards, and they had a record of everybody when they got to be a certain age. They were what we called up in the draft, and we had to report to an induction center and take an examination, and then
That's fine. You told him. Okay, let him ask another question, Dad.
Okay. Could you tell me a bit about your basic training, please?
well, basic training was primarily marching. You'd get up in the morning and dress, and then you'd get down with a couple of hundred other guys, and every day we'd march, march, march. And in addition to that, we took a lot of tests to determine our capabilities in certain areas. And I qualified as a regular airman. And fortunately, I was assigned to the Army Air Force. At that time, the Air Force was a, a very young and untrained branch part of the service. That's the one I got. And I was very fortunate because uh, it involved flying, and I didn't want to be in the Air Force and not fly. But
Then you went to
Gunnery
how did
school
you get to
next.
be a radio operator?
Right.
yeah, I went in as a radio operator and machine gunner, and I was assigned to a B-17 bomber group, the 306 bomb group, and
Could you tell
trained in the
me
United States. And at the completion of the training, I was sent overseas to England.
before we get to England, could you tell me about your gunnery training, please?
My gunnery
You
training,
remember where that was, Dad?
that was, well, in several places. See if I can remember that
In
far back.
Laredo, Texas, maybe?
Uh, yeah, I started it in Har well, I took gunnery training in Harlingen, Texas, and what we did, we got we flew in little what we call cub airplanes, where we have the pilot in one seat, and in back of him was, or in radically in front of him was the gunner, and they'd take us up in this little airplane, and then they would send another airplane up with a target in back, which was nothing but a great big a white chute, uh, and towed in back of the plane, and we used that as a target, and we used painted bullets so they could tell who fired the ammunition, and that gave them the grade as to whether you passed or not. And I think most everybody passed. They were really hungry for people.
What training did you undergo to become a radio operator?
Uh,
What's that?
Is he getting up?
for lunch?
Could you tell me about your radio training, please?
Well, they sent me to Scott Air Force Base to learn Morse code and a little bit about the radio equipment in the B-17 bomber. And I stayed there for 16 weeks, which was rather a long time for a course in those days.
No, that was in Belleville, Illinois, Luis. Scott Air Force Base.
Okay.
Scott Air Force Base, Illinois. That was very, very close to St. Louis, Missouri. And it consisted, first of all, you had to learn what they call Morse code because most of the traffic, air traffic, was not voice, it was coded. The reason they use code, it used less frequency.
Luis, you know Morse code, don't you?
Yeah.
No, not well.
You know how it operates with dots and dashes,
Yeah.
Yes.
little
Yes.
things like that. That's what he learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was all code dot dash, like SOS. And that's why we communicated.
Okay.
What would you say was the hardest part of your training?
What was the hardest part of your training?
I imagine that learning the code was probably the hardest part. And it was strictly because it was dots and dashes.
Do you still remember any of that, Dad?
But you had to learn this alphabet, like the letter A was a one dot and one dash. Letter B was a dot dash two dots. And I know them all, even today, all 26 of them.
Wow.
But the reason they use dots and dashes is because it required very little electronic space to transmit in. There'd be some, when you figure how many people there were sending messages in the Air Force and Army and Navy and so forth, it took up less electronic space to put all this information in the air at one time and send it to a particular place. And that's the reason they use code. The second reason they use code was for security.
Luis, it would be like you'd have a device similar to like a computer mouse, except it would be just a button that would be suspended on a little rod.
Right. And you just click it.
You click that button, and the length of time that it would make contact with the contact below it would determine whether it was a dot or a dash. If you just clicked it quickly, it was a dot. If you clicked it and held it down for a half a second, that would be a dash.
I see.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Luis.
I'd like to ask, when did you first meet your crew?
Let's see. Well, first of all, we were sent to a separate school. Like one was a radio school, one was a engineer school, another was a pilot school, a navigator school. And then they would all pick the individuals for each crew, and there would be 10 people picked. A pilot, a co-pilot, engineer, navigator, radio, gunner, ball turret, and shell gunner, and so forth. And this crew would be formed and sent to an organizational base where they would first learn to know who they're going to be with for the rest of their war.
So did you know who was on your crew before you went to England?
Yes, I went over. Our crew was formed, and after our crew was formed, we flew in the United States.
You got all your crew together, When
Yeah.
you left the United States, did you know where you were going?
Well, no, we didn't know where we were going. I knew where we were going before we left the States, though, in Virginia, about oh, 2 or 3 days before we sailed, the rumors went around that we were going to go to Great Britain,
Okay.
and they turned to be true.
I
So
heard a story that you met Eleanor Roosevelt uh, before you left for England. Could you tell me about that, please?
He said he heard the story about your meeting Eleanor Roosevelt. Do you remember meeting her on the
me,
train?
who?
President Roosevelt's wife,
Oh yes, I
Eleanor.
was I was on a train going from Pittsburgh to Chicago, and sitting back of me was Mrs. Roosevelt, and
Was that before the war?
this is oh gosh, I forgot all about it. I remember we were going to Chicago, and I remember she turned around and I said, "Oh, yes, ma'am." I said, "I know." I said, "You're Mrs. Roosevelt." And she said, "That's right, Sonny." Um, that was just one of the funny parts, but I got to meet, I called her Eleanor. I didn't know any better. uh,
Did you get to see your family before you left for the UK?
this this was before I went overseas.
Did you get to see your family
Oh no,
before you went to England? No,
Okay.
no.
did not.
Could you tell me about crossing the Atlantic? What was the ship like?
How long did it take to cross in that ship?
How long did it take?
To when you left Virginia to go to England, how long did it take?
I think it was 11 days.
And how many how many military people, how many military men were on that ship?
Oh, we had, I think on our ship we had close to 4,000. I know we stood in line and there was 4 lines to each cafeteria. And oh, I never saw, there was so many that we slept on the deck one night, and next night, I think it was every third day, we had to change from the deck to the inside, and they decided that it took about 3 hours to make this change. They decided that they would toss a coin, and one side would get, the heads would stay inside, and the tails would stay outside, and we drew the I think we drew the inside part. I can't remember, but I remember we said, "Oh, how lucky we were that we got the outside because we were out in the fresh air and so forth." And the next day it started to rain, and it rained every day for the rest of the trip. So it was miserable. It was a miserable crossing.
And
I
that ship was
the
the SS
USS
Argentina.
It was USS Argentina. That was the name of the ship that we sailed across the sea.
And could you
And
tell me your first impressions of England, please?
What were your first impressions of England?
I didn't consider myself to be English at that time. I considered myself to be an American, and I still had a little bit of English accent, and I was picked up as a Johnny Bull. That's what they called me, Johnny Bull. And all I know, if if ever there was a crowded boat, it was the one we went in on. I don't know how many hundreds of people, soldiers they call us at the time, were on that ship going across the sea. I can still see the sign of the harbor in Norfolk, Virginia, USS Argentina.
Could you tell me about arriving to your base in England and what you thought?
When you got to England, then they moved you to a base.
Yeah, when we got to England, they moved us to a replacement center where I don't know what the reason for separation was. It was ages, or I think it was job assignments, what you were going to be doing. And for example, I had been picked for air crew, and I was housed in the areas where most all the people were air crew, and some were Navy. Well, they were all various duties that they would be assigned. And
When you got to England, Dad, and then they sent you to your first assignment. Tell them about that.
well, they sent me to for first assignment. They sent me to the 306 bomb group.
And where did you go? Where was that? And where was the base?
Oh, in Bedford.
In Bedford,
Yes.
in southern England.
Yeah, in
Thurley?
Thurley,
Yeah.
I
a
see.
little town which was close to 40 miles from London. And it was called Thurley Air Force Base.
I think that's Thurleigh, Luis.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And
That's near Bedford, England, which is outside of London.
yeah,
Okay.
and it was B-17 bombers. We were glad to get the B-17 rather than the B-24 because a B-17 is a little bit slower, but a B-17 could take a beating much
Much better.
much better than the B-24.
You flew 31 altogether, right? 31.
Yeah, I flew 31 missions.
And when you went on your first mission, was it frightening? Did it scare you?
Where?
On your first mission, were they scary?
Oh, no, not so much scary as everybody thinks that. Well, I hope I remember what to do. Uh, for like me, I had never fired a gun before. And they put a machine gun in my hand, like two machine guns.
Do you remember where any of the missions went?
Yes,
Tell them some of the targets.
I don't even remember the first one.
Could you tell me
First one,
You,
could you tell me about the Schweinfurt raid?
about Schweinfurt? You remember Schweinfurt?
I remember Schweinfurt. That was October the 14th, 1943. And the reason Schweinfurt was such an important mission, they made ball bearings. Schweinfurt was the only place in Germany where they really made ball bearings. And that's where I learned that the ball bearing was probably one of the most important inventions ever made because you couldn't move anything without ball bearings. Anything that rotated had to have ball bearings. And
the factories were in Schweinfurt.
yes, and the Schweinfurt, which was a town of 64,000, was noted for ball bearing works.
So that was the target, the factories, huh?
Yeah.
You ran out of ammunition on your way to Schweinfurt, is that right?
Did you run out of ammunition on your way? Did you ever run out of ammunition?
No, I didn't because I didn't use after 4 or 5 missions, uh, I was on radio the whole time.
I see.
I mean, I had to monitor the whole time and send messages. So I didn't, the only time I used the gun was actually if somebody started shooting close to us. And then the pilot ordered full crew. But during the rest of the flying missions and so forth, when we didn't have any enemy opposition, why, I was strictly on radio sending messages.
Do you remember some of the other targets that you bombed?
Oh, sure. The uh, in addition to Schweinfurt, well, I went to Berlin, I think 3 or 4 times. Uh, Cologne. Uh, I just can't think of them in this.
You flew to Poland about a half a dozen times too, didn't you?
Where?
Poland?
Poland, yes. I went to Poland, I
Because
think.
by then Germany had taken over Poland, hadn't they?
After the Schweinfurt mission, that your B-17 was the only one from your squadron to return. Is that right?
After the Black Thursday mission,
Black
your
Thursday.
plane was the only one to return from that mission in your squadron?
Yeah. Our squadron sent 6 airplanes, and we were the only ones to get back on our squadron. We lost 60 bombers that day, and I think we sent 133 or something like that. I just
And the whole bomb group.
Yeah.
The bomb group and 60 were shot down that day, huh?
Yeah, 60 were shot down.
And your plane was so badly hit that
They
it never
called
flew
that
again.
Black Thursday.
Wow. And your plane was so badly hit that it never flew again. Is that right?
He said your plane was so badly damaged that it never went up again.
That's correct. It was salvaged for parts for other planes.
Do you remember the name of that plane?
The name of the plane?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but I remember the Rose of York.
Yeah,
I have it written down here that that plane was called the Cavalier.
Cavalier, isn't that right? Cavalier? The Cavalier.
Yeah, the Cavalier, that was the first plane.
That's the first one. That's
Yeah.
right.
And we weren't really assigned a plane in the early part of my career there. I may get number 103 today, and tomorrow we may fly 107.
I see.
But later on, we've got the same plane back, unless it was damaged too much. I think 1 or 2 occasions our plane was damaged too much to go to the next dated mission, so we flew what they call out of sub replacement, and I think I well, I don't know. It's so long ago, I can't remember.
I've read that in one mission, one of your engines fell off completely. Could you tell me a bit about that?
During one mission, an engine fell off from your plane. Do you remember that?
Yes, we were coming back, and a propeller started windmilling. That means it came loose from the gears, and the prop just was turned by the force of the wind, and it started wobbling and shook the plane. And we were afraid that we were going to be that the plane actually would fall apart. Well, and suddenly, after the windmill stopped, the propeller fell off completely with the engine, and then we flew very nicely on three engines. The rest, as long as that engine was removed. So we landed with three engines and then completed the rest of the trip back in.
Could you tell me what it's like to fly through flak?
What he wants to know what it's like to fly through the flak.
Scary. The only thing, the only good thing about flak is when you hear it, it's not going to hurt you. It's the ones you don't hear that hurt, and that's because the injury comes before the hurt. But flak was the biggest thing. Fighter pilots were pretty heavy early on. Germany had good fighters and good fighter pilots, and after about a third of the missions, we began to get the superiority in the air when it came to fighters, and our friendly fighters kept the German fighters away from the bombers, at least most of the time. But Germany had some excellent fighters. Boy, the P-38, yeah. I'm talking now about the Americans. But the German Focke-Wulf fighters were good and the Messerschmitts. And they were trained.
Can you tell him, Dad, about meeting the king and queen and the princess? Because we're going to have to wrap it up, okay?
Well, I'd have to search back. I met the king and the queen twice. Once in Atlanta and once in Thurley.
Wasn't the princess there to christen your plane?
Yeah, she christened the airplane.
That was your replacement plane, wasn't it?
Yes.
After the
Do you recognize this
Cavalier
picture?
went down.
That's the crew there.
Yeah, that's it. If you can see the crew.
Can you tell me a bit about
right
who these
there.
people are and where you are?
Do you remember the names of those people, Dad?
No, I know everyone. Kelly, Roberts, I forget, Shore, Landrum.
Which one are you?
I forgot his name.
He's in the second from the left there, right, Dad?
Yeah,
This one?
that's the pilot.
Second from the left, kind of kneeling down there, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that's it.
Look, these are all enlisted men, and these are 4 officers, and 3 of them are covered up there.
Yeah, they came to, as you may know, Luis, they came to christen the plane, and it was going to be called the Princess Elizabeth, but the family didn't want that because they thought it would be sort of a bad symbolic thing if that plane got shot down.
Yeah.
So they changed the name to Rose of York.
This was the mayor of London that did that. And I thought that was interesting to see that the man with a real political power in England is the mayor.
It's a big city.
Yeah, especially London.
And you met King George VI and General Doolittle as well, right?
King George and General Doolittle was there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
With the king. Do you remember meeting General Doolittle?
General Eisenhower.
General Doolittle.
Oh, yeah, General Doolittle. Jimmy.
He was there, wasn't he? He was there at Thurlow with the king and queen and princess, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was there with them.
Yeah, we have some pictures of you with them.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
gave them a tour of the B-17, is that right?
Did you give them a tour of the B-17?
No, they, I guess they must have met a lot of crews besides ours. And
They didn't go in your plane,
yeah,
didn't go inside
yes,
when you,
yes,
okay,
I remember the king going in. I
okay.
remember the, I don't think everybody went in though. That would be rude.
Yeah. Luis, have you ever been in a B-17?
Yes, I have. One time.
Well, okay, well, you know it's not a very sophisticated aircraft then.
No, it's very, very small.
Pretty
Very
scary
quiet.
just to think about going up in the air, but much less with a full bomb load and people shooting at you.
No, I can't imagine that. And it was very cold up there. Is that right, Mr. Roberts?
Yes, it was very cold up there, and we wore electric suits when we had them. And see that the radio room had what they call a hatch, and after you put your gun in, your hatch stays on the ground, and you fly up there with no cover, and it gets mighty cold in there. So we wore those fur-lined suits in the radio and in the waist.
How would you describe the generation that fought in World War II?
I don't like to comment too much on that because I was part of that generation, and I figured there were some better than us and some worse. But I think as time went on, they got better. And I thought some of the guys that I flew with were really sharp. But on the other hand, I can tell you two guys offhand who were what I would call adolphus.
Did you ever think I don't need to be doing this? Did you ever think of leaving and saying I'm not going to do this?
No, I I don't know. At that time, everybody thought, well, this is the duty. This is what we are trained for, and that's all you could think about is the present. You didn't think about the future, and you thought, well, I I needed to do this, and I'm trained to do this, and I'm going to do this, and you just it's automatic.
Okay. What else? One more question.
Yes.
Okay.
What message would you leave to my generation and future generations if you could give me a piece of advice?
Can you give him some advice? He's 17 years old. What advice or message would you give to him and his generation?
Follow orders. Oh, I think the first thing is love of country. You fight because you think your way of living is the correct way. And God taught you to do good, not evil. And this is a trait you should have picked up. The second trait you should have picked up is family life. And you're representing your parents and your relatives and all that. And you 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 should feel that you owe those people something. And so you try to do your best.
All right. That's good. Okay,
Well,
Luis, I think we
thank you
need to
very
cut it
much.
off.
And
Yeah.
I'm really incredibly grateful for all the time I got to speak with you, Mr. Roberts.
Well, we're grateful for your interest in this. You know, sometimes it's easy to forget things, and so you haven't done that. So
No, and
thank
I'm
you.
working to interview many more veterans and sharing their stories. So
Well,
I
good.
really appreciate you having taken the time to speak with me today, and I cannot thank you enough for your service, sir.
Oh,
And
my pleasure.
really, thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
You guys have a great weekend and great week.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye bye, sir.
Bye. Thank you.